Welcome. This is Coach Dorf. We're in section 3.4. We're going to look at this homework-like example. And here we're trying to take the derivative of a very complicated function. In order to do this, we're going to use the chain rule. So first, let's write down our function. It's s of t equals the square root of 1 plus sine t divided by 1 plus cosine t. Because this is complicated and I have the square root here, I'm going to rewrite this as a parentheses to the 1/2 power, where inside the parentheses I have the 1 plus sine t over 1 plus cosine t. This will make it easier to use the power rule, which I need to do first, and then I'll use the chain rule. So in looking at the derivative, so I have the derivative equals. I'm going to use the power rule. The power rule says that I'm going to look at my exponent. I'm going to bring that exponent out front. So that goes in front of the parentheses. And now I need to reduce the exponent by 1. So 1/2 minus 1, which would give me a negative 1/2 power. And then I'm going to do the quotient. I'm going to do the chain rule. The chain rule says I need to do d dt of what's inside the parentheses. All right, now a couple things here. First of all, what's inside the parentheses? Well, it's the 1 plus sine t divided by 1 plus cosine t in both of them. Also, why when I do the chain rule do I write d dt of the parentheses? Why don't I write d dx? Well, that's because my variable is t. All right, I have t as my variable, so I need to do d dt and not d dx. Okay, so let's continue working on this. Now, so I have the 1/2. Now I have a parentheses to the negative 1/2 power. That's the same thing as doing the parentheses to the positive 1/2 power if I put 1 over it. All right, but let me go off to the side here and let's look at this a little bit. All right, what is 1 plus sine t over 1 plus cosine t to the negative 1/2 power? Well, that's the same thing as 1 over 1 plus sine t divided by 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2 power positive if I put it in the denominator. But now, let's see, I can write this as, this is really 1 divided by what's in the denominator. This is 1 divided by 1 plus sine t over 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2. And how do I multiply things that have fractions? Well, how do I divide things that have fractions? I multiply by the reciprocal of the second term. So this is the same thing as 1 times the reciprocal of this, which is 1 cosine t plus 1 sine t all to the 1/2 power. And then finally, when I multiply by 1, that doesn't affect it. I can rewrite this as 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2 over 1 plus sine t to the 1/2 power. Okay, because I can, by my laws of properties of exponents, I can separate that into 2 different terms. So putting that over here, I have, like this, I have 1 plus cosine t quantity squared in the numerator over 1 plus sine t quantity squared, quantity to the 1/2 power in the denominator, right? So let me make sure I said that right. That all equals 1/2 times, in the numerator now I have parentheses 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2 power divided by 1 plus sine t all to the 1/2 power. Okay. And then I still have d dt of 1 plus sine t over 1 plus cosine t. All right, so we're going to go down here so we have some more space. Now, when I do that d dt part, what do I have to do? Well, what I have inside the parentheses is a fractional representation. So I need to use the quotient rule. So by the quotient rule, I'm going to have the denominator, 1 plus cosine t, times the derivative of the top, which would be d dt of 1 plus sine t, minus the top, 1 plus sine t, divided by the derivative of the denominator, or times the derivative of the denominator, which is d dt of 1 plus cosine t. And that's all over 1 plus cosine t squared. So then again, on the left, I've got the same thing I had before. And now, continuing with the quotient rule here, d dt of 1 plus sine t, derivative of d dt of 1, the derivative of 1 is 0, derivative of sine t is cosine t, minus, parentheses 1 plus sine t, and then derivative of 1 plus cosine t would give me minus sine t. Okay, make sure you have that minus there. And then that's all over the denominator squared. Okay, we're going to simplify some more. Left part stays the same. Now on the right, I need to distribute this cosine t to both terms. Here. So that's going to give me 1 times cosine t is going to give me a cosine t, plus a cosine t times a cosine t is going to give me a cosine squared t. Then remember that I've got a minus and a minus. So those are all going to give me a plus there. And also I'm going to distribute the sine t now to both parts. So 1 times sine t is going to give me a sine t. And then I'm going to get plus a sine squared t because I have a sine times a sine. Some of you may say, well, shouldn't I have a negative in there? I've already taken care of the negatives. Those are circled in red. Those two negatives then become a positive. And that's why I get the positive before the first sine t. And so I've taken care of the negative already. All right, and then I have my denominator squared. Now recall that what is cosine t and squared and sine squared t? So cosine squared t plus sine squared t is 1. That's one of our trig identities. So we're going to use that here. And we have 1/2 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2 over 1 plus sine t to the 1/2. And then I have a cosine t, which I'm bringing down from here, a sine t plus a sine t plus 1. Okay, and that comes from this fact here. That's where that 1 comes from. And that's all divided by 1 plus cosine t, everything squared. And then finally, I notice I have a 1 plus cosine t to the 1/2 in the numerator and a 1 plus cosine t squared in the denominator. So I can simplify those. How does that work? Well, I've got 2 of those 1 plus cosine t's in the denominator. So that's what the square means. And I have a 1/2 of one of those in the top. So if I divide by a 1/2 of those, both on the top and the bottom, I'm going to end up with, in the bottom, I still have my 1 plus sine t to the 1/2, but I'm going to have 1 plus cosine t now to the 3/2, because we had 2 in the bottom, and we had 1 in the 1/2. When we reduce those, we get 3/2 in the denominator. And then in the top, I still have my cosine t plus sine t plus 1. And that is my final answer. Hope that helps.